Word that the central government supports an expansion of the individual visit scheme to cover residents of more mainland cities. The government will roll out policies to speed up the maintenance and repair of aging buildings in the city. And the U.S. vetoes an Arab-backed UN resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. In a bid to boost the city's tourism industry, the government has been seeking the expansion of the individual visit scheme to allow mainland tourists from Tiers 2 and 3 cities to visit Hong Kong on an individual basis. It's understood the proposal has received support from the central government. Currently, residents of 49 mainland cities, mainly first-tier ones, can take trips to Hong Kong via the scheme. Other mainland residents can only visit the SAR on business visas or group tours. The government also sought the resumption of multi-entry endorsements for Shenzhen permanent residents. Retail sector lawmaker Peter Xu said the measures would boost the economy, adding that the government should hold more mega events to have more overnight tourists instead of just day trippers. The government confirmed that Xia Baolong, head of Beijing's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, will embark on a week-long trip to Hong Kong tomorrow. During Xiao's 6-day visit to Hong Kong in April last year, he visited neighborhoods and delivered speeches as well. This time, Xia will focus on tapping views over Hong Kong's latest economic development and local governance. Chief Executive John Lee expressed welcome to Xia's second fact-finding mission. Authorities continue their investigation into the collapsed scaffolding at a high-tech construction site yesterday, which killed 2 workers and injured 3 others. One of the victims remained hospitalized in the intensive care unit. At around 5:30 p.m., police crime squad officers went to the construction site of residential project Panel Harbor in Kai Tak. They collected some building materials, documents, and computers. The Labor Department and the Buildings Department also sent officers to the site this morning. The scaffolding measuring 15 meters by 8 meters fell from the 19th floor, dragging along a female worker to the ground. The poles and boards collapsed onto 4 workers passing by, claiming the lives of 2 female workers aged 54 and 68. Reportedly, after initial investigations, it's suspected the metal wires used to hold the scaffolds to the building's external wall were removed, leading to the tragedy. Currently, safety rules have mandated regular inspections of scaffolding's structural soundness. Dr. Lee Kwang-sing, a senior safety consultant of the Hong Kong Construction Industry Employees General Union, said the safety checks are often done through visual inspections. He said it's easy to check if parts such as the nylon strips or putlocks are securely fastened. But he said the safety rules are not legally binding now and called for better deterrence for non-compliances of safety protocols. Starting today, the Labor Department will begin a 2-week special mission to inspect all large scaffolding at the city's construction sites. The department is also amending the Code of Practice for bamboo scaffolding safety, with new rules to be rolled out between March and April. The government will roll out several policies in the first quarter of this year in a bid to speed up the process of the maintenance and repair of old buildings. The policies are set to improve on the existing mandatory building inspection scheme and repair measures, and allow Urban Renewal Authority to intervene in the tendering process by property owners when necessary. Timothy Lee tells us more.
There were multiple cases of falling concrete chunks in the city last year, posing safety hazards to the community. To tackle the problem, the government decided to improve on its mandatory building inspection scheme and repair measures. Currently, the Buildings Department would issue inspection notifications to 600 buildings aged 30 or above each year after conducting a points-based risk assessment. A higher score reflects higher risk. According to the proposal for policy improvement submitted to the Legislative Council, the points-based system will be updated, such as granting relatively more points to buildings suffering from damage or disrepair in exterior components. The increased score also pertains to buildings without owners' corporations, residents' organizations, or property management companies. Such buildings will receive inspection or repair notifications sooner than others. This as the scoring system for the age of buildings has been relaxed, decreasing from an upper limit of 20 points to 10 points. The Development Bureau said the score has been increased for damaged exterior components after authorities made considerations for public safety. The change is set to be made in the second quarter of this year. The government announced it will normalize its use of drones to inspect aging buildings starting in the first quarter of this year, with the target of inspecting 360 buildings annually. Meanwhile, authorities are aiming to speed up the process of granting financial assistance to property owners for the inspection and repair of buildings eligible under the Urban Renewal Authority's Operation Building Bright 2.0 scheme. The average time it takes for the approval of applications to approving repair work contracts is 43 months. The updated measure will introduce a new tendering mechanism which allows URA intervention. The government believes the update will shorten the waiting time to around 15 months. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The United States has vetoed an Arab-backed UN resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The 15-member UN Security Council voted 13-1 in favor, with Britain abstaining. The U.S. says the resolution would interfere with months-long ceasefire talks as it pushes its own draft for a ceasefire. Nasvi Karim has more.
Against? Abstentions? The result of the voting is as follows. 13 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has not been adopted.
It was the third time since October 7th that the United States, one of 5 countries with Security Council veto power, blocked a ceasefire resolution. However, this time Washington has a draft resolution of its own, which according to reports includes the word ceasefire for the first time. Unlike the Arab-backed resolution, the ceasefire in the US draft resolution is linked to the release of hostages. It condemns Israeli moves to build settlements in post-war Gaza, rejects any changes in Gaza's demographics and geography, and opposes an Israeli ground offensive in the southern Rafah district.
Our text calls for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza as soon as practicable, based on the formula of all hostages being released. Last I checked, no one here opposes this. A majority of us also agree that it's time for this council to condemn Hamas.
Palestine's permanent observer to the United Nations said the veto is allowing Israel to get away with murder.
The veto of this draft resolution is not only regrettable after weeks of consultations, it is absolutely reckless and dangerous against shielding Israel even as it commits the most shocking crimes.
Algeria withdrawn the resolution. Russia and China were among the nations that expressed their dismay. Zhang Jun, China's permanent representative to the UN, said US claims that the resolution would interfere with truce talks is totally untenable. He said it is nothing different from giving Israel the green light to the continued slaughter. Israel's envoy Gilad Erdan said the Security Council must side with Israel against the forces of evil and condemn Hamas. In Gaza, an Israeli airstrike on a residential building in central Dar el-Balah killed at least 17 people, and an airstrike on a house in Rafah killed 12. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
2 major political parties in Pakistan say they've reached a formal agreement to set up a coalition government 10 days after national elections failed to return a clear majority. The agreement is between Bhutto Zardari's Pakistan People's Party and the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz of 3-time Premier Nawaz Sharif. It ends days of uncertainty after the February 8th elections produced a hung National Assembly. Bhutto Zardari confirmed at a late-night press conference in Islamabad that former Premier Shehbaz Sharif would be the coalition's candidate for Prime Minister. Shehbaz Sharif, the younger brother of Nawaz, said the 2 parties had the numbers to form a coalition government in a 264-seat legislature. The coalition dashes the hopes of jailed former leader Imran Khan, who was linked to more than 100 independent candidates who won seats in the elections. Vladimir Putin says he has no intention of deploying nuclear weapons in space, a complete contradiction to a recent U.S. government leak. The Russian president was shown on state television in discussion with his defense minister. He congratulated Sergei Shoigu on recent gains in Avdiivka in Ukraine. The conversation then turned to nukes in orbit. A Washington source told American media last week they had information Russia is developing space-based weapons. But Putin said, "Our position is clear and transparent. We have been against nuclear weapons in space." A 1967 treaty bars signatories, including the U.S. and Russia, from placing around the Earth nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction. Still ahead. In the UK, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in final appeal against extradition to the U.S. In South Korea, officials order striking trainee doctors to return to work. And locally, the government reviewing its policy on dogs entering restaurants. Welcome back. American lawyers are putting their case at the UK High Court as to why Julian Assange should be extradited on spying charges. The Australian is wanted in the US for disclosing classified files 14 years ago. Assange is challenging extradition. David Garrett reports.
Unwell, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was not at court in London on day one of his appeal against extradition. Hundreds of his supporters were. Assange's legal team are challenging the 2021 ruling that he must be sent to the US to face 17 spying charges. The computer expert supporters say he's done nothing wrong. This is Assange's last appeal route in the UK to stop extradition.
One of those demands was that we destroy our archives of classified information relating to the Pentagon.
Assange came to prominence in 2010. His WikiLeaks published secret US material. American prosecutors say Assange helped whistleblowers steal diplomatic and military files, putting lives at risk. The Australian took refuge for 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. When the relationship deteriorated, he was arrested by British police. His wife Stella, who married the 52-year-old in prison in 2022, was at court and addressed his followers.
You know what the stakes are. You understand what this is about. It's about you, it's about us, it's about the public's right to know. It's about the right to be able to speak freely without being put in prison and hounded and terrorized by the state.
Assange and his supporters say he exposed US military wrongdoing that was in the public interest. They argue it is not Assange, but freedom of expression on trial.
What Julian Assange is being prosecuted for is exactly what journalists do around the world all the time. They receive classified information that's in the public interest and they publish it from their sources. What this means is that if Julian Assange is successfully extradited to the US, journalists the world over are going to have to watch their back. They're going to have to look over their shoulder because they're going to have to worry that they too could be next.
If the UK High Court upholds the decision to send him to America, Assange could be on a plane immediately. Although Assange's legal representatives say they'll take their challenge to the European Court of Human Rights. David Garrett, TVB News.
In South Korea, officials have ordered thousands of striking trainee doctors to return to work immediately, a step that could lead to legal action if doctors fail to end their walkout. This after medical interns and resident doctors walk off their jobs earlier this week to protest the government's push to increase medical school admissions from next year. Tracy Furness reports.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol accused doctors on Tuesday of holding people's lives and health hostage as their strike continues. Yoon held a cabinet meeting Tuesday afternoon to address the trainee doctors' mass resignations in protest over a plan to increase medical school admissions by 2,000 from next year.
의료 현장의 주역인 전공의와
Yoon defended his decision, saying, protecting people's lives and health is the reason the government exists, and it is the most basic constitutional duty. The president went on to emphasize that it is necessary to boost the quota to maintain medical services in rural areas that face a shortage of doctors. Junior doctors support senior doctors during surgeries and treat patients in hospitals. Their walkout has burdened hospital operations, and the government issued an official order for doctors to return to work or face up to 3 years in prison or 30 million won in fines. Striking doctors say the government's return to work order is intimidation and must be withdrawn immediately. The Health Ministry said today that authorities have received 58 complaints from the public over the walkouts, mostly regarding surgery delays and cancellations of other medical treatments. As of Tuesday night, about 8,820 out of the country's 13,000 trainee doctors have submitted their resignations to their hospitals. None of their resignations has been approved, but about 7,810 doctors have left their work sites. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A damaged wing caused a United Airlines Boeing 757 aircraft to make a diverted landing in Denver. A passenger filmed what appears to be a crack in the wing of the aircraft after hearing an unusual vibration. The plane had been due to travel from San Francisco to Boston. The airline admitted an issue with the slat. 165 travelers landed safely and got to their destination on another plane. An investigation is ongoing. Boeing have not made comment. Back locally, home renovation in Hong Kong often requires a sizable sum of money and effort. But the lack of transparency in pricing and poor quality of service can turn a dream home project into a nightmare. The Consumer Council found that 1 in every 5 home renovation projects is plagued by disputes. Inflated costs, poor workmanship, and late delivery of service, all common pitfalls in home renovation projects in Hong Kong. Over the past 7 years, the Consumer Council received some 1,200 related complaints involving around $280 million. In the watchdog's latest survey, more than half of some 500 respondents found the home renovation service quality drastically disparate. More than half lamented exaggerated promotions and sales tactics, including those with risk-free promises, with difficulty in comparing prices across different quotation formats. The watchdog also sent out mystery shoppers getting a hold of 40 draft quotations. 40% of them did not provide the list of work items needed.
Sometimes they don't even write down the completion time. So in this regard, it arises a lot of disputes. That's quite obvious that the market needs help and we need to do something about it.
75% of the companies claim that kitchen doors can be replaced with a sliding door, and wall removal works can be carried out before inquiring what specific type of the wall they have. Both practices, the watchdog warns, can come with legal risks for consumers. The Consumer Council recommends that the government or the industry itself set a standard form quotation, which includes a cooling period of no less than 7 days, with alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Another suggestion, a government-endorsed accreditation program that covers different industry segments in home renovation to help consumers make more well-informed choices. The government is reviewing its policy on restricting canines besides guide dogs from entering restaurants. The process is estimated to take around 1 year. Timothy Lee tells us more.
More and more residents are bringing their beloved dogs to dine outside with them. But with the restrictions set under the food business regulation, all canines besides guide dogs are banned from entering restaurants. Most people can only eat with their furry companions outdoors. This dog owner says she understands that some people dislike animals, but she wishes she could spend more quality time with her pet while eating outside. Some lawmakers question the government about relaxing such restrictions to allow dogs entering restaurants, facilities under the Leisure and Cultural Services Department, and even public transport. The Environment and Ecology Bureau emphasized it understands the measures have been in place for close to 30 years, and that societal views towards dogs have also changed. But the Bureau stressed it needed to take public health into consideration, and predicted it will require at least a year to review the long-standing policy. Some residents share their views on the matter. This Sai-Kung resident believes restaurants should offer specific areas for patrons with dogs, adding that other customers could be allergic to the animals. While this restaurant owner says she does not mind dogs in her restaurant, but is concerned some patrons may dislike being around pets when dining. Some infectious disease specialists believe most restaurants are not suitable for dogs. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Wilson Lam said those suffering from weak immunity and the elderly could experience serious symptoms or even death from salmonella. He added the risk of infection increases in restaurants with pets because it is more crowded and more difficult to maintain good hygiene practices. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The government unveiled the development plan for Lao Fao Shan in Yuen Long. The 740-hectare new development area will have designated zones for its digital technology hub and ecotourism. The Development Bureau said together with Hung Shui Q, Ha Chun, the new development area can generate up to 94,000 residential flats. A coastal conservation area and a country park will be set out in the area too. The mass transport system in the area will use green smart technology, including trolley buses, which are electric buses that don't run on tracks. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.